Welcome back to the Badass Reset Club. This is your host, Heather Yancey. Today, we are talking about the power of the trail and the magic of hiking, especially in midlife. I have just finished another bucket list hike and I'm amped up. I want to share. I want to share a little bit with you about how you make something epic happen. So, whether you have been a hiker for years and years, you're an enthusiast, or it's something on your radar, today's episode is going to have something for you. I love hiking, and I didn't always do it consistently. I would hike here and there, and never could quite figure out my groove. I never had a consistent hiking obsession, and not until just the past few years. But imagine this. Imagine hiking in a place that's so incredibly beautiful, and whether you feel like that draws you closer to the heavens or just gets you into Mother Nature, there is something that is so special about hiking. And when I just finished this a few weeks ago, not only did I spend the entire day like in my head, in my thoughts, processing things, writing out keynotes in my head for future speaking jobs, but I really took the time to disconnect. And we're going to hit on some of the important reasons that we hike, some of the benefits and the important things that come about it. But I want you to know this: hiking is not just exercise. No, 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 no. Hiking is this form of healing. It's this strength building, soulful connection, especially in midlife. And why do I keep drawing on that? We're in this time of change. We're in this time where we might feel like we don't have a lot of control with either our aging parents or aging kids, or maybe our careers have hit this precipice where we're feeling like the what's next? What's next for me? And hiking is this beautiful bridge. It's this gateway. It's this connector to what lies ahead. And there's so many metaphors that we can come up with, for that journey that we take. But this past trip with my husband celebrating our 28th anniversary, this was such a special trip. We didn't do rim to rim, we did a different trail. It was 20 miles, it was 5,000 feet of climbing, and it was a long, hard day, but a day that was full of beauty, of meaningful connection, of really digging deep, offering up support to each other, taking breaks from each other when we needed to, just to have our own space. And it was a day that I will truly remember. There are two things that are specifically memorable when you're doing a bucket list event like this, or a bucket list hike. The first is the start. Like, imagine you're standing at the start. So for us in the Grand Canyon, you're standing, you're looking down a very big canyon. But if you're on a traditional hike or a mountain or a hillside, you usually are at the bottom looking up, wherever that gaze is, whether you're remarking how far the distance is, how high or low it is, you're just taking that in of, I'm about to do this. And on the flip side, when you're done, and in my case, I'm looking down at that canyon again because we've gone down and come back up. And I'm just thinking, I did that. There is something so incredibly empowering about knowing that you have pushed those limits, that you have accomplished something massive. And that's the magic. That is what we set out on these expeditions for. It is for that I'm about to do something big, and I just did that big thing. I absolutely loved this journey with my husband. The last time that I did this, I did do rim to rim, where you start on one end of the canyon, you go to the other end. So for us, we started on the south end, we went to the north rim. And this was with a bunch of badass women, the Bettys, the Betty tribe. And we really separated into smaller groups to traverse at our own paces, but we had a very different experience. There's something about a group of women And then you and your spouse, there's a very different feel. There's awesomeness in both of it. And both trips were incredibly different from each other, yet I still took those two things, standing in awe at the beginning and at the end. So let's talk about the power of the trail. Like, why is hiking so magical for women? We have all of these physical benefits. And the first one is it improves your cardiovascular endurance without the joint pounding intensity. So for me, I used to love long distance. I liked Ironman, half Ironman. I loved marathon distance. I loved the length, even half marathon. I loved being out there for a long time and working for a long time. But that being said, this 50 something year old body no longer wants that intensity, the pounding for hours. So this beautiful thing with hiking is you can get all that cardiovascular benefit, but you're saving your hips, your knees, your joints are so much happier. It also improves our muscular endurance in our glutes, in our hips, in our core, and in our stabilizers. We have enhanced balance and bone density and proprioception. You know, every time your foot is landing and taking off and pressing, you're working proprioception, which is only going to help us as we age. And then it also supports our metabolic health and our hormone balance with that low zone two, low impact. So those are the physical benefits. Of course, we know that, there's this thing about hiking. Um, we call it getting high, right? Naturally high. There's the mental and emotional benefits that come with it. And we've got to think about it like disconnecting from tech, overstimulation, that constant like being needed and having to respond to things. I loved being in the Grand Canyon and having very limited service. I knew that nobody could get in touch with me, and it felt so good to spend a day disconnected. It also helps to build our self-trust and our confidence. So, like I said earlier, that I did that. Those moments, whenever you accomplish something, you are building resilience, you are building self trust. There's this dependence on yourself to get yourself through this that is really a deeper strength. And then it offers solitude, reflection, this stress relief. So when I just went hiking with my husband, when I mentioned that we separated for a little bit, no, I didn't push him off the cliff. I actually would go ahead for a little bit and then he would go ahead for a little bit. We kept each other in our vision, but it's sometimes one of us just needed to pull back and take a break or grab a snack, some electrolytes, while the other felt strong and just kept going. And it's in that you can recognize a good relationship, that we didn't have to stick together the entire time. We weren't codependent on each other, but we also respected each other and what we needed and where we needed to maybe like pull back and take a breather. And giving that person the opportunity to have some time alone in their thoughts without feeling like you had to talk and chat and be present for each other. And I think that it truly deepens this mindfulness and presence through this nature connection. Nature is incredibly healing and powerful. So when we can get out there in nature, we should. Okay, so like let's say that you are not an avid hiker, or maybe you've never even hiked before. Where do you start? Where's a good place to begin? You want to start local. So find something that's within your city or, just out on the outskirts in your region. A great place to look is All Trails. You can get the All Trails app, or you can look online at All Trails, and they'll show you distances, elevations. They'll rate it. Is it easy? Is it moderate? You'll see other people's pictures on there. You'll get to see what people say, like if they just did that hike, what they brought. Did you need mosquito repellent? That's very helpful. And that is ALL Trails, All Trails. Another thing to do is think about walking with a friend or join a group, a hiking group, and you can also go solo, but I'm just going to preference safety first. I do a lot of solo hiking, and there are things that we want to make sure that we're doing if we're going to solo hike. So you need to let someone know your location. For me, I bring Pepper spray. Thanks to a client, he gave me some pepper spray to keep in my pack. I bring extra things. I bring an extra layer, which we're going to talk about. I bring extra food. I bring enough water so that if I got stranded somewhere, I'm going to be okay. And I also make sure that I am trackable. So sometimes we go off radar when we're hiking, like we can't be seen, but I want to make sure that someone knows my location points, which is very important. So I will send that to a family member, or maybe I like turn on my services enabling people to see where I am. That could be a friend, it could be a family member, just so that they know. The essential gear that you're going to want to have, you want trail shoes or hiking shoes that have grip. You don't want smooth sides. Trust me on this. When it gets really hot and the ground gets dry, you tend to slip. And same thing, if it's really wet and muddy, you're going to slip as well. So you need to have something with a little grip, a little traction. Hiking poles, trekking poles. I used to think this was like for old farts only. Like people who just got hip replacements and knee replacements needed the trekking poles. No, just in this past year when we were hiking the enchantments in Washington, my friends and I were all like, we take it back. We take it back. Everything that we said about hiking poles, they are not for old people. They are for people who want to be smart, who want stability and support and to help with the joints. I tell you what, it makes a big difference for your hands. My hands get really like fat and swollen when they're down and I'm hiking for a long time. When you're holding poles and you're moving with the hands up, you don't get swollen hands. It's so great. Also, it helps with the knees. You're using upper body and not just lower body. Highly recommend the poles. I wish I would have known that sooner. Hydration packs, water bottles. Hydration packs are ideal. You can get what's called a bladder and you put it inside your backpack. And usually backpacks have a little hole for your earphones, the wires to stick out. So the drinking part, the tube where you drink out of, comes out of that little hole and it can connect right to the strap of your pack. You don't need to invest in a real serious hiking pack. You can use your backpack, but you can take more water than you think you're going to need. And that's always a smart idea. I like it over water bottles only for the fact that all I have to do is turn my head and I can drink. My straw, my tube is right there. I don't have to like take off my pack, fish in there for my water bottles. And let's be honest, I drink a lot more when water is right here next to my face than having to get at it. Electrolytes. Yes, you need electrolytes, even if it's not hot outside. Electrolytes are going to be really helpful. My favorite kinds of electrolytes are Element, LMNT, and Noon, Nuun. And nope, I am not sponsored by them. I will proudly be sponsored by them if they want to support this show. But Element is my hands down favorite. It's something that I take on a daily basis and I make sure that I have it. Now, when I'm hiking, I don't like my big 2 liter bottle of water to get contaminated with the flavor of electrolytes. So I will usually leave that for plain water. I think it's just harder to clean out. And then I'll take a bottle with my electrolytes in them on the side so that when I get to the top or when I've got a good resting place, I can take that bottle out and get some electrolytes in. Slow digesting carbs are also really important. So think fruits, think about nuts, small little sandwiches, something that's going to be a slow burn there. And then you want to make sure that you've got lightweight layers, enough lightweight layers. Here's what happens. We start hiking, we get sweaty, we get really hot, we start peeling things off. But then when you get to the top or you're on your way back down and you're not working as hard, you tend to get the chills because you sweat all that stuff out. Your clothes are wet and maybe the temperature is not quite as warm as the day goes on. For whatever reason, you need to have layers so that you can bundle back up. You do not want to deal with hypothermia. And someone with Hashimoto's will tell you it sucks. It sucks to get those chills and then to be so cold you can't feel your fingers. And that will happen to me on a 75-degree day. So I got to have those layers. A hat and sunscreen, important too. Make sure that you're covering up. It's going to help you from overheating and not working so hard, especially in those summer months. And then have with you some simple first aid items. Think about a pack of Band-Aids or a couple different size Band-Aids. Think about maybe some moleskin for an ankle. One of the things that I say that I always have, and I happen to have it here, so if you're watching on YouTube, Aquifer. Aquifer goes with me everywhere I go. I use it when I'm hiking on my lips. It's really moisturizing, but it's also fantastic if you start to chafe, like underneath the armpits when you've got a pack on, or, women, like your sports bra starts rubbing in places, chafing if you're wearing shorts, or maybe just at the ankles. You might need a little bit of that moisturization to help you not to get blisters and chafing. Highly recommend that. So let's talk about the safety must knows. Like I said before, let somebody know where you're going. And here's the other part of it, what your expected return time is. When are you planning on coming back? This is a very important thing. If I tell you I'm going out for a 4-mile hike, you might think, oh, she's just being really slow today. But if hours and hours and hours have gone by and I'm not back, that's a problem. So let them know I expect to be back by X amount of time. Watch your footing. You don't want to rush on loose gravel or steep descents. You want to watch where you're going. So that proprioception that we talked about, that stability where your foot needs to land and your ankles trying to find the balance. If we're going really fast, especially on a downhill, and you've got some terrain that's just a little bit like loose or rocky, that can be problematic. Just be careful. I am married to a first responder who has been on plenty of trail rescues, and nobody wants to be in that situation. So just go easy. And then be aware of weather changes. I know that sounds silly. I know that sounds like something your mom would say, but if you see a storm coming or those dark clouds, turn around and go back if needed. Just pay attention to what's happening with Mother Nature. And then lastly, when we think about safety, stay on marked trails. This is to protect you, and it's good for the environment. I know that about a year ago, I sent a little SOS message that I got off the marked trail and I didn't really know where I was. And I was afraid of cougars. There had been a cougar attack not too far away, not too long before. And I knew I had made a really dumb Heather decision to go off the marked trail and go explore. I thought perhaps the way that I was going was going to meet up with the trail that I wanted to get to. And I had to send a little SOS. I dropped a pin where I was. Captain Safety, my husband, told me to get my ass out of there. So I turned around and went. Now, here's the beauty of it. If you wear a Garmin, I can tell you, you can look at your Garmin watch and you can go in the reverse. So if you don't know where you are, you just look at the map portion of your Garmin and you just follow that trail right back out. It's very helpful for me. But I'm not going to be doing that anymore. I'm not going to be leaving the trail anymore. So these are ways to get started. Now, if you are an avid hiker and this is something that you love to do, I'm going to say take that up a notch. Have your bucket list, have hikes planned out in advance. It's those carrots, those things that we plant ahead so we have something to look forward to, something to train for. And then maybe you're getting a group in to connect with who are going to be doing the same thing. And that way you're building excitement, you're building community. That's such a beautiful place to be. Now, speaking of that, consider this. If you're wanting to get in with community, I have the Wild Reset. And we are going to start off with local hikes this summer. And we are working our way up to, yes, a Grand Canyon adventure together. So if that is something that interests you, reach out to me. If you are not local, I can give you the guidelines for what we're going to be doing for building up, and I can keep you in the loop. Maybe this is something that you're going to start within your own community, your own Wild Reset, where you go out and you hit that reset every time, thinking about all of those health benefits, all of the mental health takeaways you're going to get, and then that sense of community. You can go solo, but sometimes it's more fun with friends. So I just want to leave you with this. When you get to that point on the trail where it feels, and this will happen to every single one of us, where it feels too hard, too big, too much, and you just feel overwhelmed with it, all you need to do is take one step forward, pause, take a break. Pushing forward does not mean you're stronger. You just take one step at a time. And that over time, those steps and steps and steps, that is what builds your strength, both physically and all those little mental reps. It builds up, it builds up, it builds up. And that is this resilience that we come away with. It's just like this movement right now for women to lift weights and get stronger, how it affects your confidence, how it empowers you. The same thing happens with hiking. Every step, every mile, every mountain that you walk up makes you that much stronger. Thanks so much for tuning in this week. If this was inspiring to you or you want to get your butt out there on the trails, come with us on Wild Reset. If you are not local to me, reach out to me. I'm happy to get you going and on your way. And if this really like rocked your boots, share it with a friend and say, "Come on, let's go. Let's make it happen." We will see you next time. Stay badass and stay you.